What's up, dudes? Welcome back to another episode of Rhomas Men's Team. Pretty simple. We are a group of guys helping each other make progress towards each other's goals. If you're new to the channel, awesome and welcome. If you want to help support the channel and join our pro team, head over to rhomasteam.com/pro, where you can contribute to us on a donation basis. We also give you access to exclusive content, mastermind groups, etc., etc. So anyway, hope you enjoy this episode, and we'll see you on the team.
I'm about to find out. After she's gonna get up from nap, we might go sledding if we get enough accumulation.
Oh, this is her first snow?
She had a little one before, but she was so young. It's like she was just like a worm.
Are we live?
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, sweet. What's up, dudes?
Chilling, man.
Maya's first snow. That's the big discussion.
Yeah, the first one she knows what's going on, so this will be cool. But yeah, dude. Whew, here we are, end of the week. I got absolutely nothing done. I'm pissed. But,
oh, really? What's your birthday week, bro?
No, it wasn't even that. It was just we were so busy with stuff here, hosting family and whatnot. So
yeah.
But the time that I got a chance to, I did write a little bit. But it's just today. I knew it. I was like, this week was just not. This was not a fruitful week.
Yeah. Well, again, it's your birthday week, dude. I give you permission. If you guys don't mind, today I need to be a little more brief.
Yeah.
Got a big account that we're working on, and I'm trying to big project that I'm working on right now is trying to create our religion. So like bring it from practical finance to philosophy. And it's like people like us do things like this. And then from there, you can develop the tactics and, the X's and O's, if that makes sense.
So this is a question. So if you guys were to be hiring, like, how do you structure that into the interview? Do you kind of like see if people naturally
Sorry, looking at Ray's comment.
What do you say? So if say you do have so you have a company, this would boil down to like any single enterprise. So you have a company and you're interviewing people. Like, do you kind of wait to see if they naturally touch upon the way you guys do, like your core principles, or do you kind of like spell them out to them and let them be like, oh yeah.
Dude, that's probably the correct way to go about it. My problem is I just like spew my beliefs on other people, and and then trust me, I go in wanting to be like, yeah, I'm gonna like listen, and I'm gonna take all the information I can, and it's like I let them say like 3 words, and I'm like, no, this is like we're doing this, and they get all excited, and then I'm coming on board. Dude, I've been very lucky though. Like we've never had a bad hire, like at all.
That's cool.
Actually, except for one time. There was literally one time, and this was an intern. Dude, I'm not kidding. It was like out of a movie. It was like if you hired Ferris Bueller. Like, I'm not kidding. Literally, you couldn't make it up. I walked back into the office. He has his feet up on the desk, scrolling through his Instagram. Not kidding. At like 10 a.m. Literally not kidding. And to the point where like you'd ask him to do something, he'd be like, yeah, I guess I could do that. And then like to the point where like my partner Dave, nicest guy in the world. I mean, you know Dave.
Yeah.
Dave like yelled at him. He's like I don't understand what world you think this is. He's like, but you're a jackass. And it just like went off. It was awesome. It was so great.
So funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't even try to like hide it. It's just...
No, dude, it was weird. It was almost like he had a hidden camera. Like literally, that's how bad it was. It's like he's got to be doing this for some other audience. There's no way this guy acts it. But from a couple weeks of it, like he's just an idiot.
Yeah, I mean, how do you? Well, it's funny because they're like the easiest cases because there's no doubt in your head you can just be like, all right, get out of here. Like you're.
It was enjoyable
here.
Firing him. Yeah.
Yeah. I bet. So the worst part is like the gray areas where a person's not like horrible, but there's also little things, and you start going like, am I nitpicking this person, or like, and that is like, on both sides of that too. Like when you're working for someone or you're hiring people, it's like it's such a delicate dance to like like when people are like, well, I don't want to be too nice and have people kind of walk all over me, then it's like, well, I don't want to be too much of a dickhead and have them hate me. Like, how do you manage that?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is like not having crazy expectations. You know, most people, in my opinion, have never been given the canvas to like actually be creative and to produce and to like to create value. And then I give them, I mean, literally the stuff that I say on here is the conversations I have outside here. So like I have a hardcore conversation, like, look, here we create value, and I want you to create value. And also, like, just so you know, I want you to break shit. So like, if you're not breaking something at least once a week, not failing something at least once a week, you're just not trying hard enough. Like, you're playing it too close. And I said, I promise I will never get mad. I will get mad at you if you don't go fast and go hard, right? Like, and be intentional. That's the only time I'll get mad at you. I will not get mad at you if you do those things and then you break something. Subsequently, I told some other people this before, and he broke the entire phone system, which is a big deal for us.
You're telling
I was
me
like, dude, I don't even know how you did that. Like, you know, so then, you know, so just like that kind of stuff. But like, it was a good practice for me, because literally within 3 hours of me having the conversation of him breaking stuff, he broke arguably one of our biggest assets that we could possibly have, you know? So it was almost like the universe saying like, okay, like, we're going to test you. But then I didn't reprimand him or anything like that. It's like, all right, let's just figure out how to fix it, blah, 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 go on. So I have found that outside of that one anomaly, everybody that we've worked with or hired on board or even done projects with, they like the conversation of like, oh, this guy believes in me.
Yeah.
Like, regardless of my past, the past has kind of already been vetted out through the resume, through like the interviews, through like, you know, calling their references. It's like, okay, we're fine on the past, so that's done. It's like, okay, regardless, it's already at a good level, right? Like, but how do we get them to a great level? And it's just give them the freedom, and then like boost their confidence. You know, it's like, hey man, like, what are they saying? How to Win Friends and Infants people? Like, give a dog a good name. You know, treat them as if they're already the champion that I honestly believe that they are. They've just never had a chance to express it. They've either been like suppressed under a corporate umbrella, or like, you know, I don't know, like the one girl that we just hired. You know, she's a grandmom, super young grandmom. She's probably in her, if I had to guess, like early 40s. I don't remember correctly, but like, you know, she adopted her daughter's child because it wasn't a good situation, right? Like, that's an awesome fucking human. Yeah. Now, like, if we can translate that emotion to like our office, so it can translate to the families that we serve. And dude, she's on board. Like, we had that conversation. You take it from oh, this is my job, to like, I'm part of a larger mission for sure. And this guy, like, I can see it through him. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's it's funny too when you say that of like, and I think this applies to like any job you're at, where like you get there and you're kind of like, all right, what are we, like, I've spent so much time at jobs being like, just I have a question about something and I'm like, that guy seems busy, and then I just sit there and I'm like, what should I do? Nah, I shouldn't do that. But yeah, maybe I'll do that, and I'll just sit there on my hands. But if someone's like, yeah, dude, like, go for it, you know, whatever. Yeah. Then you can kind of like, it really encourages autonomy. That like, I think that, you know, maybe, I don't know if it's the thing, but it's definitely one of the top 3 things that like help people not even just like move up in like in a company as if that's the end all be all, but it's like learning how to take those autonomous steps and like kind of work in the dark a little bit and figure things out and take those little tiny risks. I think it's like, I do think it's one of the main things that like separates people from, you know, not getting the stuff they want, or, you know, like the job they want, etc. Oh yeah. Because I would do it all the time.
Yeah, the coolest thing about in my profession is like when you treat it like a real mission. It's super emotional. I had a woman and a husband and wife in here yesterday, and the woman was crying her eyes out, like happy tears, because she realizes that like she's good, right? Like she's good, like she's in a job that she doesn't. It's just too stressful. She wants to retire and she can, and she just like breaks down crying, like that sort of thing. Yeah. Or like you work with the families and they send their kids to college and they're fine, and then all of a sudden their kids become successful because of like a little bit of coaching in here, like all that kind of stuff. I'm trying to make it as holistic as possible, literally like the conversations we have here, you know? Yep. So it's like, dude, I'm just super grateful. Like I get to see that. And then anybody who would bring on board, we try to bring in those meetings, and they're like, oh, this isn't just about making more money. It's like, no, it's about the translation of what extra resources does for your family and for your family's mission.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, man. And dude, it's I can attest to that too, of like, those money decisions are far from, like, it's a pretty simple calculus of like, all right, how much do you need a month? How much do you make a month? And I still am like, we can't do that. And it's like, what is it based off of? It's like, my 6 cents. We can't do that. You look at it, you're like, oh, I could totally do that. Or you totally couldn't. There's always a flip side. But you get people who are like, it'll work out. And it's like, well, let's check the numbers on that. And it's like, we got it.
Yeah.
I'm due for a big promotion.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. And it's like, we need more people, and not in my every industry, we need more people to take on the responsibility of the results of the people they work with. And not just like, oh, I'm just doing this to make money. It's like, because I can look at somebody dead in the eyes without like I pass the blink test. I don't blink at all when it comes to this stuff. It's like, yeah, you're either on the line, which I can tell you mathematically, or you're not, or like you're on like that sort of thing. But it's certain. It's not like, because I've done this thousands of times at this point, like quite literally, you know. So it's like no different than Matt, what you could probably see with a stand-up comedian or whatever vein of like your mastery, you could see those people. So people just like, they want a teammate, right? It's like, they want a teammate who's done this hundreds of times, thousands of times, and then just telling them, it's like, no, like, you're uncertain about this, or Matt, like, yeah, you might not think just because of your sixth sense that you could afford this or not afford this, but I can tell you with certainty that you can. And also I'm going to be there for you as a brother, saying like, you should. You should get that office space. Like, you should fucking do it. It's your next level of growth. And there is no riskless path. There's never a path that's comfortable, ever. And if there is a path that's comfortable, you're just delaying the discomfort in the future, like that sort of thing.
Hey dudes, sorry for the interruption here. Just wanted to let you know, if you want to join our pro team, go to romasteam.com/pro. You can help support the channel. You will also get access to exclusive content, masterminds, one-on-one sessions, etc. All right, back to the episode.
Yeah, and I think that's the big one, man. There really is no riskless path at all. Like, this is such a dumb minor thing, but I walked by a place. I was walking my dogs, and there's a place down the street from me that it's like a massage place. So it's like, upon entering this place, you are agreeing to be filmed. And I walked by and saw that, and I was like, that's interesting. And I was like, what if an illiterate guy walked by there and then he walked in and got filmed and sued? I was like, is there something within that would help? And in my head, I went through all these scenarios, and I was like, yeah, well, I guess that's just like a risk you have to take. Like, that might happen, but it's like, you know, there's no real ironclad solution to all this stuff. But yeah, dude, being able to take risk is a big separator, man. Like, I swear to God, it's a big separator for people who feel like they're stuck and have no other way, versus like, all right, let's roll the dice. And, you know, the thing is, I'd love to be like, yeah, and just do it and it'll work. But you might fuck up. You might fuck up so bad.
Yeah,
you might fuck up so bad. But at least I could guarantee there's nobody on their deathbed who's like, fuck, man, I wish I didn't take all. They're probably like, that was pretty cool. I pushed the gas all the way down.
Yeah, I think what happens a lot of times is people confuse transactional risk for holistic risk. So I think I don't gamble, but from my understanding, like, the way to let's say play blackjack is you go in with a certain amount of units on hand, right? You stack a certain amount of chips, and then you divide those units. So let's just say you have 100 units. Well, so you look at the 100 unit risk, not the 10 unit risk. Or the 1 unit risk. It's like, oh, okay, well, I can take the transactional risk 100 times. But if I have a 400x payout, right, or 4,000x payout, a disproportional payout, then that risk is now defined inside of that holistic perspective. Therefore, it's like a fraction of the risk that I thought. But because people don't think, a lot of men don't think that way, it's like, oh, is this risk that I take here with like asking for this date, right? It's like, no, it's not the single transaction. It's like, what if you did it 100 times, right? Then all of a sudden probability is very much on your side, like very, very much on your side. That
makes sense. And just to clarify, you're saying like, because when you started saying that, I was thinking of like the difference of people being like, I'm going all in on, you know, like I'm going to go to the casino and win big, versus like, I thought you were saying like holistic risk in terms of like something you're doing holistically, but you're saying look at your risks within the whole entire picture of like, what do I have? What are my resources? You know, say I did this, once it might fail, but you know, if I were to do this 100 times, if it's just one of those catch, then what's the payout on that?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I don't think you can. I'm trying to think how to say this. I'm gonna absolutely strangle my dog. I don't think you can.
Pretty good footage.
I don't think you can fully like develop as a person unless you kind of take some form of risk in your life or deal with some level of uncertainty. And I don't say that like as a dickhead, but there's like, you know, there's that whole idea of like the hero's journey, Joseph Campbell, of like, and it seems to be a pretty, you know, global thing, like an archetype, I would say, of like, you go out, something happens, at that moment you can just kind of revert to like the same old, or just like wait till it goes, or you can like go head first into it. And like, yeah, like Ray's saying, Like, it's so strange because it's like, when you go outside of your comfort zone, when you hear that, it's like, oh, my comfort zone. But when you're outside of it, it sucks. Your heart's beating out of your chest. Your thoughts are completely almost unified in being like, bad idea, bad idea, bad idea. And there has to be a thing inside you that can have your heart race, your palm sweat, your head be like, no, please stop, and be like, nope, we're pushing through this. And like, dude, I swear to God, on the other side of like facing those things, there's typically you get really good things out of that. And it's like, just think about giving a speech at your company. Like, hey, can somebody talk? Dude, you can be with 100 people. 99 of them are going to be like, I'm not fucking doing that. You do it. You're nervous. Oh my God, did I sound like an idiot? I guarantee you're done. It's like, man, that was pretty cool. And now people are like, oh, that guy will actually talk. It's great. It's like little stuff like that.
Without a doubt, man. The issue is, like, if you break down the interaction of, let's say, like, hitting on a female, we all know what it's like to get rejected, so you get that immediate pain. But then we also know what it's like to come out on the other side of that, like the fact that you have denied your ancestors. Like the only reason that we're here is because of risk taking, 100%. Right? Like, you figured out a way to battle the environment, whether or not you want to take the risk or not. The environment has plenty of risk inherently baked into it. So the only reason that we're here is because our ancestors were able to beat the game to a certain extent. So it's like, you already kind of know at a DNA level, you have to play the game.
Yeah.
And if you don't, it's like, okay, good, congratulations, because you'll be the last one in your lineage, and that's fine, right? Like, like that sort of a thing. But you feel that, like, you feel that viscerally. It's like viscerally. It's like, oh yeah, like I didn't talk to the girl, which I avoided the rejection, but oh shit, now I can't have a child, right? Like, it's like this very interesting, and that feels worse. I mean, we've all been there. If like you've been playing the game, quote, too safe, and then now it's time to pay the bill of the quote safe path, and you're like, oh, this wasn't safe at all.
Yeah. There's that idea I like a lot in ACT of like the pain of presence and the pain of absence. And like the pain of presence is like, you have a speech, you're nervous, oh, my heart's racing, then like say it doesn't go as well as you want it, oh man, that sucks. But like you were saying, Wes, that's one, you do that 100 times, chances are it's going to start going pretty well. But when you just keep avoiding that discomfort over and over and over, and you're like, yeah, this feels good, this feels good, this feels good. Over 10 years, now you're looking back on your life and you go, damn, I didn't do anything because I was scared. That's a deep, 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 deep sense of pain that it just doesn't come for a long time. And when it finally comes, it's like, oh my God. And it could not come till the end of your life. And it's like, Jesus Christ, think about that. But it's like, that's
and
stuff
then you
I try
lack
to
the
think
muscle.
about. At
that point, when you come to the mental realization, you lack the physical muscle to do anything about it.
Yeah, and it's like, or even more terrifying to think about. You could be so lost in your own rationalizations that you could be sitting there being like, it's all somebody else's fault and all that shit. And it's like, you can really get kind of tripped up in your own head. And there's a saying, so I forget which book I was reading, but they're talking about how it's hard to say if things that feel good are good for us versus things that feel bad being, it's like you kind of almost don't know. There's things that taste horrible but are good for you. There's things that taste good but are terrible for you. And it's kind of tough. And also Ray was talking about, I think Will Smith, I think his grandmom used to say that, like, your dreams lie on the other side of your discomfort. Mm-hmm. But if you read his autobiography, the one thing that I thought was like pretty fucking nuts was like his whole shit fell apart. You don't really, I never knew this. All just collapsed, man. His like lost all his money doing music, girlfriend cheated on him. This is when he was like, he just became famous for all of his music stuff.
Didn't pay taxes.
He didn't pay his taxes. IRS dead his house. He almost got in legal trouble because he was hanging out with junior black mafia guys. And he just went out to LA and, he's sitting, he was like he's sitting around just like sulking because he's like, I feel like a loser. And his girlfriend was like, you got to start going to these little Hollywood parties and rubbing elbows with people. So he starts doing it and he's like, man, I feel like a loser. This sucks. I'm a fucking nobody, blah, 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 all that shit. And, which in like entertainment, that's like very, like if you walk into a room and that's all people think about, like that person's this, I'm a loser compared to this person, but I'm better. It's just all a bunch of bullshit. But either way, in his case, he was like, I'm not doing anything. I owe the IRS millions of dollars. I'm fucked. And he starts talking. He just strikes up a convo with this guy who's a producer. He's just like, hey, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. He'd been doing it for like months and all these conversations. He's like, it's not going anywhere. It just so happened, it's just night after night, just failure. Nothing's coming out of it. So he has a conversation with the producer. The producer is like, you might be good for the show we're thinking about. Can you act? Will Smith says yes. Never acted a day in his life. Yes, I can act. No idea how to do it. So he gets invited to this party, like Quincy Jones there and a bunch of people. And so he goes there and they're like, hey, we want you to audition for this role. And he's like, yeah, cool. When are we doing it? They're like, right now at a party. He never acted before, never auditioned. And he like literally told Quincy Jones, like, I don't want to do this right now. And he's like, when do you want to do it? He's like, how about 2 weeks? And he was like, absolutely not. Yeah. He's like, you have to do, he's like, just do it right now. And then he said, he was like, dude, I mean, just stop that. Again, it's a story, but if you put yourself in that situation of like, not only just talking in public in a legitimate Hollywood executive meeting, you've never acted before. And like, all right, I want you to read for this part and you have to get over the imposter syndrome. And he said it was like an out of body experience. He's like, I was so nervous. I just at that point chose, fuck it. I can totally make an ass of myself, but I'm going like all in, way all in. And he did it and they loved it. But imagine though, if that little worm of a thought, like, I can't do this, his life would have been totally different. Just that one moment. And it's like, you don't even know what those moments are. Cause like, say you didn't do something and there was something that laid on you don't know that what laid on the other side of it. You'll never know. So it's like, it's hard it's easy for him to look back and say that, but like, people could have fucked themselves out of all kinds of stuff. And it's not all about like, oh, you have to make it. That's like a whole different thing. But it's like, dude, how about just owning a house, man? Like, how about owning a house? How about having a stable, secure home? Blah, 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 blah. It's like, in my opinion, these are the real victories. Because if you read the Will Smith biography, he had all that. And then his house just like fucking crumbled in terms of like relationally. So I think it's a fascinating book. Everyone laughs. They're like, oh, Will Smth. It's a fascinating study.
Yeah, it's on my list.
Fascinating study of human nature. Because it's like there's all in it, like you were like, just in terms of a holistic picture, it's like you can be crushing. Then like your relational world falls apart, and then it's like, well, fuck, And it's one thing to like have your buddies be like, oh, fuck you, but like when your kids are like, fuck you, that has to hurt. And it's like, and then like, oh, Jesus Christ, I could go on forever. But that was that's just one of those examples, man, of like the next time you're there, you're like, I'm kind of nervous. I don't want this person at my job. It's like, fuck them, dude. It doesn't like, it's like, again, within reason, that's just what I say, but it's like, you have to be smart about it, but it's like, yeah, you really got to kind of not do that.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I mean, one thing, Matt, I'll throw out to you in case anybody else wants to try it as well. Like, I try to microdose risk as much as possible, like little stupid little things. So that way, when it gets to the bigger risk taking, like it's like just muscle memory. So an example for me, this sounds so dumb, I kind of embarrassed to say it out loud. So like, I'll take micro risks, like, oh, I'm going to try to go and park in the front. It's like, because normally like I just drive and it's like, oh, I'll just assume there's no spots, right? So it's like, so it's like, I'm gonna take the micro risk of like, well, maybe there is, maybe I'm worth it, like that sort of thing.
I park all the way in the back like a servant, dude. I always park.
It's so funny that John Mulaney stand-up comedy. He's like your suspicions are confirmed. He's like wealthy people and famous people are all weird. He's like, it's not like most of us. He's like, I walk into a room, I knock on the door. He's like, can I borrow a laptop charger? He's like, I literally bend over, right? Like, it's like, that's how much, we think of ourselves in terms of like, we're just not worthy or whatever. So like this microdosing risk, man, has changed my life for sure.
Dude, I used to do an exercise, and this was more so of like, kind of like doing stand-up and like nerves in terms of performing, and it's a similarly ridiculous one. Actually, when I did teach a comedy class for, I think it was like a couple months, which again, I genuinely don't recommend people take, because I think it's a waste of money. And it's just it's one of those like theory versus experience. Stand-up's a very experiential thing. You can theory, and someone can sit and talk all they want. It's a total waste of money. You have to go to the experience of it. But the one thing I was telling people, and they're like, I'm kind of nervous to perform, and I was like, I'm a very introverted person, man. I'm not built for like being in front of people like that. But I can do it. It just took a ton of repetition. The exercise I used to do was just sing in my car, just because usually it's like, let me get on the highway, or let me like get past this light.
I caught you one time. I don't remember that.
I think I do actually remember that. I'm always looking for people to get me, but it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, and again, it seems so minor, but you pull up to a red light, you like the song, you kind of want to sing it, but there's a person next to you, and it's so often you're like, I don't want this person, but it's like, why are you allowing that person being there to dictate what you do? I struggle with this. Every cell in my body is like, no, stop. And you force yourself to get comfortable with that. I recently, I'm not all the way there, but I've been much more comfortable to just kind of like have a blast in my car and if I pull up next to people, it's like, well, I don't give a fuck.
Great
exercise.
Like,
dude, it's just the dumbest little thing, but it's like you realize that little like, this person, I shouldn't. that's almost, I have that, I'm pretty aware of, or I try to be at least, what's going on in me mentally. And it's like, you subjugate yourself millions of times a day like that. But that's that. Let me just not, and there's not a horrible thing, you shouldn't like take that completely out of yourself, but it's good to examine like, yeah, how often am I just kind of deferring authority to some other person for no other reason than I'm just being like, no, I shouldn't do that.
Such a great, would you do it shirtless?
Yeah, I love driving. Actually, driving shirtless in the summer is like my favorite. That's something I look forward to. Winter. Like if I winter would be tough. Dude, winter would be tough.
Oh man, such a great. I love the exercise. I love the singing exercise. But yeah, doing shirtless in the winter.
I play the flute in my car. I've been playing the flute in my car too at red lights. That's something I don't really feel weird about because I enjoy it. But it's like, dude, it's so funny. Why would you
feel weird about that? It's totally normal.
Just then I'm playing. I'm like pulling up. There was a lady the other day, and I'm sitting there and I'm just playing at a red light. Dude, this lady stops. It took her a second to like take in what was going on, and then she just started laughing, and I was like, nice. But it's like, dude, it's a simple little exercise. And Wes, I totally agree. It's like, there's another thing I liked a lot from that one book, A Liberated Mind, where they talk specifically about little exercises and like identifying when you distort the truth, like even like 1/100th of a percentage. Like how often we distort the truth talking to people, and we distort it more with other people. And the thing was like the same idea of like microdosing, being more honest. Just one person you feel comfortable with and be as honest as possible with that person, and then start to do that with more and more people, maybe someone you don't feel as comfortable with. And it's like that's a rabbit hole you can go into mentally where you're like, oh my God, I'm a fucking liar. My reality is based on entirely deception.
Oh,
it's like,
boy,
yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yeah, man. So it's like, you can do these little things, and I genuinely believe that good things lie on the other side of them. But it's like they're uncomfortable, and you have to do them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'd do completely fine with it, but in the area of like talking to a female, I think it'd be pretty interesting.
Exactly.
If you're just like if we're literally talking about like no deviations whatsoever off of the truth, like of what's going on in here versus like what's coming out of here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that's a big talk about that's a macro dosing.
Yes.
Yeah. Interesting.
It's a heavy. The girl filter is a heavy duty. Although I read another book, and this was a fictional book, and it was so funny because it was like it was a book about the aristocracy of like France, America, and England kind of like mingling with each other. But the one guy's quote, it was so funny. I don't remember it exactly, but it was like the way to settle a woman's mind, believe it or not, is with unadulterated truth. And like this guy would just hit this lady with like the most unbelievable, the whole book, like they talk like between events, they just sit down and talk, and he just hits this lady with the most savage truth bombs, dude. And it's like, it's crazy.
I can totally do that when I'm in a relationship. I can tell you that for sure. Like that's I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. It's the pre-relationship, like in particular, like the early stages of courtship.
Yes.
But like where my issue becomes in the relationship is like, yeah, you do this terribly wrong, and I'm not wrong about this. I promise you, I'm not. And Matt, I've told you about conversations that I've had. It's like, and it stings, but it's like, for sure you are doing this correctly. I'm definitely doing things correctly. I think it's this, but you are 100% wrong about that.
Yeah.
And like validating feelings or not, I'm just telling you, I'll validate your feelings at the emotional level, but the origin of the feelings is completely misconstrued. It's completely wrong, and you should probably get it checked out.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah.
It's a tough one to have. Even I swear by
reality.
And there's only so much you can be like, well, this is just how I feel about it before you have to stop. You have to on it, and that's a whole other subject in terms of like, especially like man of the house, even just man of your own house, but like especially when you have a family, it's like you want to have everyone's feelings going, but it's like sometimes you have to be like, no, like you're gonna not like this, but I'm telling you this is a bad thing and it has to stop. And it's like, yeah, that's tough because you have to be sure of yourself to draw those lines in the sand.
Yes.
And without going like, I feel like, especially maybe this was a thing like maybe longer ago, but it's like, I'm the man, I'm always right. It's like, well, that's kind of a recipe for disaster too.
Yeah,
but it's like laying on that line and being like, I've thought this out as deeply as I can. I can't think of anything that I could possibly be wrong about this, but here it is. And it's like, you're not going to like this.
Yeah.
That's also nice.
Put the disclaimers around it. It's like, hey, I certainly could be wrong, but I'm not. Right? Like, it's like, like everything in myself, I'm just telling you I'm 100% certain about this. in the absence of maybe other information you can give to me, I have a funny feeling you're not going to give to me any other information. So I'm pretty certain I'm right.
Yeah.
So
and within that, honestly, within that whole context, I would say sometimes I would do a thing where I'd like say it and be like ready for like, oh yeah, totally, you're right, and I just say it and I let it marinate. You have to let it marinate sometimes.
you slowly back out of the room.
Yeah, just be like, hey, that's all, that's all I got on that. And then you just, because I'd be like, can you say I'm right? Can you say I'm right? And I stop doing that. I go, okay.
Right.
And I just let the gear spin. It might take a couple days, and you'll start to see what you said creep in. It's like, nice. But if I try to force it, I'd be like, basically being like, say that I'm right now.
Yes.
And it's like, no, doesn't work.
Well, yeah, letting go of that, of you needing the validating, reciprocity.
Yep. I always think there's an old story. I think it was like one of those old like Zen stories. I always liked those a lot, where it was like, so one time there was like some old Zen master living in a hill. They're living on like a little farm on a hill, and like it's just a lady just dropped her kid off at his doorstep. It's like, I can't take care of him. And he goes, okay. And then so his kid lives with him, and then the parents come by and they're like, you took my daughter's, because the daughter was ashamed and told him like, this man took this kid. Like, you took this kid. And he goes, okay. And then they take the kid back, and then like it comes out that like the lady tells the truth, and the family's like, I'm sorry, we accuse you of that. He's like, okay. And he just is like, whatever, bro. And he's just moving with it the whole time. He's just like, okay. He's just moving with it. And I think that kind of helps a lot, like of just being able to observe a situation play out over time without getting caught into like the scenes of that thing playing out over time. That's obviously a parable, but it's like to be like, yeah, this is chaos right now, but I'm going to just still stay on my 2 feet, relax, and 3 days this will be nothing, and I'm going to treat it as such.
Yeah, I heard a similar parable recently as well. It was like a series of events. A guy, like, I don't know what it was, but like, had a child with a woman and didn't mean to have it, and like his friends were like, oh my God, that's going to be so bad. He's like, maybe, and then
yes,
right, like that whole thing, and then the child ends up becoming. Right, like, I don't know, like, super successful when he's a teenager, and they're like, oh, that's such a great thing. And it's like, maybe. And then, like, the child ends up going to the army, and they're like, oh, my God, that's terrible. And he's like, maybe, right? Like, just the keep on maybe. It's like, regardless of, preconceived pluses or minuses, it's like, who knows, right? Like, just keep on going with it.
And that's the, I only listened to a little bit of the Jordan Peterson Rogan podcast, but Peterson touched on it. I gotta listen to the whole thing, but the one thing he touched on that was kind of funny was the time horizons, about like how, we're never really specific about like which time horizon we're thinking of when making decisions, and
right,
pretty interesting.
Time mapping, dude, love it, absolutely love it.
Yeah. But
so, what would you say the moral of this episode is? If people can take away one thing, microdose risk.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
what I'm taking away from it. Reminding myself of microdosing risk. What little micro risks can we take so that we're prepared for the more macro risk?
Yep, and I think just to kind of add another thing to that, it's like, and the reason you're doing that is because you're, trying to kind of etch out more room for, you as you truly are in the world, so that you're not just kind of like living this weird, like shelled up existence. And the one before we go, dude, there's a thing I've been doing. I kind of like it. I'm still experimenting with it, but I have my mindfulness bell app. I use it on my phone. It goes off throughout the day, pretty much every hour or so. And when the bell goes off, I've always experimented with a bunch of different things to do once the bell goes off. But something I've been messing, and people can play with this. I don't, I haven't fully signed off on it yet, but it's kind of cool. So when the bell goes off, I ask myself, I think 4 questions. I go, where am I right now? Because that kind of if I'm like having a daydream, that'll snap me out and being like, I'm in this room. What am I doing? It's like, well, say I'm playing with Maya. Okay, where am I at? I'm in the living room. I'm playing with Maya. Why am I doing this? Maybe you're doing a thing at work or something. It's like, well, you can actually state why you're doing the thing you're doing. And then the 4th question is, how do you feel? And I just repeat that to myself throughout the day. And it's a cool, like, grounding exercise.
Love it. It reminds me of that exercise that was done, I think by maybe Daniel Kahneman. I could be wrong. But where they gave people, a whole bunch of people, pagers, and then they would just randomly ding them and saying, like, how happy are you right now?
Yeah.
Something like that. That's pretty interesting. Like this random, scorecard.
Yeah, and just checking in the moment. And then you might be doing something. You go, yeah, why am I doing this thing? And you can't answer that. When you get confronted with that question repeatedly throughout the day, it's kind of an interesting way to like get in touch with why you do things.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm going to see how I incorporate that.
Yeah.
And Ray said he's super grateful. Ray, right back at you, brother. I'm grateful for Matt, for Ray, for all of you guys.
For sure.
This keeps me grounded 100%.
Absolutely.
It like makes me think of not just my game and my career, but my game holistically. So grateful
Absolutely.
for you dudes.
All right, man.
All right, dudes. Have a
See you
great
later.
freaking weekend.
Later on.